Right, so good evening. My name is Bruce Wade, and today I just want to chat to you about change. Now, change is something that we've seen in our lives so often. We are forced to change. We are being invoked to change. We are being motivated to change. And one of the topics that one of the themes that I sort of came up with, someone asked me there a while ago is what are speakers? What is a professional speaker? And being kind of president of a professional speakers association, I was supposed to have the answer. And I was going to go, well, and then I said, hang on, we are edutainment agents. And it kind of stuck. And it's great. So let's just unpack that, because that's what we are. We've heard this evening. We do education, we provide facts, and we share our facts. So there's definitely a bunch of education that we have and we share. But we also do a lot of entertainment. And, there's people who do some really fun stuff. I've laughed out aloud on a number of occasions this week listening to the other speakers. But primarily in between there, we are change managers. We are managers, we're agents of change. Now, a while ago, previous life, a number of years ago, I worked for IBM and I was a project manager. And one of the things that we were trained in was change management. How do you change people from A to B? We're putting in systems, we're putting in new computers, new processors, changing everything. And how do you get that to fit? Now, a while ago, we were introduced to this model, which came from Covey, and he introduced us to the see-do-get model. And it came out the time, it was part of his cluster of education that came out with his 7 habits. And now we're going way back, like 30 odd years. And when all that information came into South Africa in the mid-90s, it brought quite a lot of interest for corporates, and corporates pay good money to go and introduce these 7 habits. But this one model here, the see-do-get, was kind of left by the wayside because people didn't understand it, because corporates and a lot of us home in on the do. If you want to get healthier, do this. And we've heard this from speakers. We hear this from speakers over and over again. This is what you need to do to get what you get. And we forget about the C, and we forget about that initial stuff there. Because if you only do to get and you motivate the do, how do you motivate that? Well, in corporate, we have this wonderful thing called motivation tool. They call it KPIs. And when you sign on to a new company and you sign your employment contract, you sign in, these are your KPIs, and then they are underlined by KPAs, and you would get a list of targets and daily and weekly and monthly goals and all that BS. And we motivate the do by the carrot and the stick. And we beat people about the head and face with love and kindness, mostly not to motivate to get, because what the corporates want is they want to get results, and people need to do that to get that. But what about the C? The C is an amazing, it's critical, that's why it's on the top. It's the important part there, because if you do not see the change, you will never ever do the do to get the get. So a lot of what we need to do as speakers and as edutainment agents is we need to repaint the picture of the C. Do you see yourself as a better person? Do you see yourself? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? What does it look like to be $1 million speaker? What does it feel like to be a successful entrepreneur? What does it feel like to be a healthy person? Imagine how it feels like to be able to run 10, 15 miles without getting tired. And that is the picture you've got to change. So a lot of athletes, they do the sports psychology and they unpack the C, and you see people doing the visualization of the jump or hitting the ball or kicking and whatever it is before they do it, because they're working on the C. If you do the C correct, the do happens automatically. The do you can do through drills. You go hit 1,000 golf balls, but you've got to come back and change the C. Otherwise, your head will come back and get you. And that's where I want to do that. So I've taken that model and I've complicated it a little bit more and created something like this. This is my change management methodology. I'm not going to sit and take you through because it's an entire day workshop, but I want you to kind of cast your eyes down at the bottom left-hand corner. That's the review. That's that almighty stuff when you arrive at work one day and say, we are reviewing and all this. So we're going to jump over the review because change starts in the reframe. And the reframe is where change management starts, because that's when you take the frame and you alter the angle and you've seen the same picture through a different frame. And unless you're doing that with people, you are not going to get their buy-in. So the first step there is informing people that change is about to happen. And that informing is the reframing. If you get the reframing correct, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to get people who are going to buy into it. These are the people you don't necessarily want on your team. You don't want the yes people right up front. Pick me, pick me, pick me, they say in the front row, sitting out there right below the change management and the project management's office, saying, pick me, I want to be on this, I want to be there. You never, ever choose the person who volunteers first, because they are the people who are going to fail because they haven't gone through the thought process. So a little bit about the brain, and boy, have we had a whole lot of brain talk with a whole lot of scientific names. Let's scrap all the scientific thing. Your brain is about survival. It's there to keep you in survival mode. If things go out of kilter, it gets you back into survival mode. That's its main function, is survival. All the little bits and the widget and the gadgets and the chemical reactions and everything in there is about survival. It's the main CPU that makes you live and continue living, and that's its job. So when you introduce change, what you're doing, you're taking something and you're pushing an alternate reality away from normal. Now, people will get enthusiastic if it's sold correctly. You're going to go, we will do this. And everyone goes, yes, we can do this. This is what we want. And you've seen this in corporate. We can raise the power and the enthusiasm through music and drums and dancing girls and bribes and all sorts of stuff there. And people go, yes, we can. And we all chant together and say that. But what happens? 24 hours, 36 hours, the brain is going to come knocking on the door, and it's going to go, you know, all that fun, that hype, that's gone. Now we go into that little red block called resist. And the resist is the objections, because your brain says, I do not want to change because I do not know how to live in a changed environment. I only know survival in the status quo. That's why people go from one bad relationship to another, or one poverty situation to another, because that is where the brain knows. And even if you are unhappy, the brain is happy being unhappy because it knows what it is and how to survive in that place. So change, whether you're changing behavior or jobs or functions or anything like that, you've got to go down into this resistant block. Now, a good speaker will go there with his audience. He'll go there. So you're probably thinking, let's go and address the negatives. Don't just sweep them under the carpet and say, oh, you who object are just evil and you are the bad employees, and we write them off and you guys can leave the room, and you get angry and you address change with anger and fear. Well, good motivation tool, not. You've got to go down into this resistant block there, and you've got to go into the realign block, that kind of paisley orange block there. And you've got to ask two questions here. This is where we go. We ask the people, why won't this work? Now, I can tell you it takes a very strong leader and a very competent and confident leader to be able to ask his troops, Why will this fail? Let's hear it. Let's hear it. I often pull out one of those flip charts and I draw a line down the middle and I go, right, left-hand side are all the ways that this is not going to work. We did this a while ago with an NGO and they all looked at me and going, like, we're not allowed to talk about that. And I'm going, I give you permission. Tell me why this is not going to work. And once we got flowing, we filled the whole wall with Post-it notes. It was amazing. But as we get into the agreement of the negativity, what does your brain do? Your brain sees that change is an accepted process and you're allowed to wallow in the negative just for a short time. I normally have a tea break right after that and we go, right, go have a 5-minute break and everyone goes, hey, we're not going to do this. Yeah, the boss has heard us. Yeah, this is great. Wow, they've accepted our Andy, we don't have to strike. We don't have to write letters of demand anymore. They've heard it. And we come back from the break and say, right, now that we've got rid of all the why no's, let's together talk about the how yes. And then we start unpacking. So you say we don't have time. What about this? You say we don't have enough money. What about this? Not enough skills. What about this? Oh, it's too early in the morning. Oh my goodness, don't ask me to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But how can we do that? Where is that? How do we cross over that line? And together as a collective, we go from hell no to how yes. And we move across that path in the alignment. And then when there are no more objections and everyone is happy and your brain goes, oh my goodness, I cannot do anything but change. Then you've got people to cross over. And then you jump from that block and you go to the reform, which is all about education. And reforming people is taking them from that step to say, here is the education. This is where we go. This is how we unpack these things. This is your learning stuff. You need to go on this course. You need to read this book. You need to come on this coaching thing and all that education. I've done this so many times with corporates and we go in there with a whole bunch of education and we educate them. We empower people and we reforming them. And then we jump a little bit across to the first step of the change, the platform, which is reset. And that's where the change happens at the level 1 because people are empowered and they are able to take ownership of their own destiny like we've seen now. Now I know about the 5 o'clock club and I know about those 5 points and stuff. Now I can go make changes in my life. I've still got to deal with the brain because often we recycle back down into the stuff and I'm going to resist. And we have to go back round and round and round and round. And as we get into that sit there, we say, once I've reset myself, then I can up a level to retool. And retooling is now that habit, that 21 days, the 60 days, and it's retooling. It's the way, changing my SOPs, changing my KPIs and all those other stupid corporate acronyms that we throw around there. Ultimately, it's taking yourself by the collar and saying, hey, I am going to do this and I'm going to stick at it and I'm going to continue doing this until I get better at it. And together, we are able to do this. This is where teamwork comes in. Now, I draw a lot of resources from special forces training from around the world and some of my experience in the military and just unpacking that and looking at how the SEAL teams and the special forces teams have changed the way they've trained. No longer do you get that hierarchy of the guy in command and everyone else listens because often the guy in charge is the guy in the front and he gets the first bullet and then teams would fall apart. So what they were doing now it's a flat thing. When teams go on to op missions, they are no longer allocated into a hierarchy. Everybody has the chance to sit there and say, hey, stop, I see something. what about this? What about this? And they're able to interact as a level team. And they've drawn this back into corporates. I remember one of the things when I was in corporate, I waited for my promotion because I got a bigger chair, and I got a chair with a high back, and then I got a bigger desk, and then I got a desk with a view, and then I got a company car, and it was so great. And I was just becoming project manager, and I was going to get a little office, and they announced, oh, we're changing it to flat structure. Everyone goes back to open plan. I was going, I got so close to my corner office, and I was back there with all the masses and to be able to fall out there. But it's interesting that as we retool and as we grow together, it's a team effort at this change, because we need the support. Because if I wake up in the morning and go, my brain goes, no, I don't want to do this. It's that support and accountability from everyone. So it's no longer the change manager to change, but it's the peer change pressure that comes in at that. And it's that support and that pressure and encouragement from that. And then finally, we get to the top where we reinvent ourselves. And this is where we call this cementing process, where we can do that. I've done this for so long, it's second nature. I wake up and I automatically reach for a glass of water instead of my cigarettes. I automatically get up and put my shoes on and not my slippers and go for a run. I'm going out there, and I know at 5 o'clock, I'm not going to go get a hot chocolate, but I'm going to go get another glass of water or something. And that habit then gets there, because now your brain has gone, wow, this is now a new way of thinking. Now I know how to survive, and I'm happier surviving in this new way. Therefore, we can cement it. And only when you cement a new habit can you go right back to the bottom and review it, and then go change once again. And we live the cycle over and over and over again. And if we try change too much, we listen to a week of talks like this, and all of a sudden we've got like 56 things to do, and I've made 2 pages of notes on all these amazing things, and we end up doing nothing because it's too much. So pick 1 or 2 things that we've taken out of this week. Go there through the cycle, understand yourself, listen to yourself, let yourself be negative, because it's part of the healthy change cycle. Address those negativities, and then start doing reform, reset, retool, and reinvent and cement your new habit. Because what this does then is it changes the picture of what I see, because if I change what I see, then I'm going to do the things that I'm going to do. So I'm going to get the things that I get, rather than not seeing any picture, and I'm going to do the things that I'm forced to do, and I'm going to get failure, and all I see is a failure. So therefore, I'm going to do more and more failure stuff. And it's a victim downward spiral instead of an upward spiral. So thank you very much for the model that we got from Stephen Covey all those years ago. It is still relevant today and still very, very important, but never, ever drop the C out of any change model. So what I want to do is I want to leave you with my information there. My name is Bruce Wade. I'm the current president of the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa until April next year, and we want to help you become better speakers, but we also want to engage with you to become better business people and better humans.